But before all of that, tonight's top story. After 40 years as an MP, Ian Paisley has decided to step down from his Westminster seat.
In a moment, we'll be looking back on his career. But first, our political editor, Ken Reid, reports on how his decision will lead to a fierce electoral battle in North Antrim, with the TUV leader Jim Allister set to take on Ian Paisley Jr.
It will be 2 years this week since Ian Paisley announced he was stepping down as First Minister and leader of the DUP. He decided to continue to represent North Antrim at Stormont and Westminster. Now, at almost 84 years of age and with the general election now imminent, he's decided to end his 40-year career in the House of Commons and will not stand in the expected May 6th election. The DUP will decide its candidate next Monday, and the hot favourite is Ian Paisley Jr.
Certainly I will have my name in the hat, there's absolutely no doubt about that. But the issue on the decision that I leave to the wisdom of my North Antrim Association, and it's up to them to decide who they want to take on the mantle of the Democratic Unionist Party, to lift that mantle, to carry it high, to fly the standard for the Democratic Unionist Party in this election.
TUV leader Jim Allister has already announced he'll be fighting the Westminster election in North Antrim. He promises a real battle for the seat. He says the end of Ian Paisley's political career was tarnished.
I think undoubtedly in the early years, Ian Paisley was a very effective, efficient MP, and he became a towering parliamentarian, and no one can say otherwise than that. His legacy laterally, in terms of effectiveness in Parliament, has been so much less, with, for example, his essential absence, only being there, missing 82% of the votes in this Parliament. And of course, politically, his legacy tarnishes his very principled stand for many years, because his legacy now is of terrorist inclusive government.
The battle for North Antrim will be fascinating, a real test of unionist opinion in its heartland, and there are considerable implications, not least for subsequent Assembly elections. Ken Reid, UTV Live, Stormont.
Well, Ian Paisley has been a controversial figure in Northern Ireland and Westminster politics for 4 decades. As he leaves the big political stage, Niall Donnelly has been looking back on his career and how people will remember him.
Never! 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 Never!
Love him or loathe him, Ian Paisley has been a giant of the political scene here for the past 40 years. Since this outburst opposing the Anglo-Irish Agreement in 1985, he has travelled a long way politically, ending with the DUP finally deciding to share power with Sinn Féin at Stormont. Despite his fame, it was in an interview with the Ballymena Guardian that Ian Paisley announced he would not be seeking the nomination for the North Antrim seat at the forthcoming general election.
He fought 19 elections and won all of them, so he's obviously well thought of in this town.
He has been a huge figure here.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, he took the seat in 1970 from the official unionist candidate, Henry Clark. He hadn't intended to stand, but Clark actually, according to Ian, burnt a photograph of him at a public meeting in Kells, and that encouraged him to stand. He then overturned a huge majority and has held the seat ever since, fairly comfortably, it has to be said.
Ian Paisley says he entered politics to fight republicanism, but fighting what he called big house unionism was also a strong motivating factor.
He believed that big house unionism, people got elected because they were part of the establishment and they didn't look after the working class. Now, throughout his career, he has used his powers of oratory and all the rest of it to bring people along with him and to vote for him. That's where he got his votes from working class Protestants, eventually to fight against republicanism.
Ian Paisley has ruled the political roost in North Antrim for 4 decades. Here in Ballymena today, there's little shock that he has finally decided to step down. But as to who should replace him, well, that's a different story.
I think his son should take over now. He's younger, and I think it's time for him to take over.
Do you think Jim Allister has much support in the area?
Oh, yeah, I think there is a level of support there, but it'll be interesting to see if there's a 3-way contest for the unionist vote, how that'll go.
They're all useless. They're all out for themselves, money to line their own pockets.
Deputy First Minister Martin McGuinness has paid tribute to Dr Paisley, describing him as a friend. The Prime Minister Gordon Brown praised what he described as his long and courageous career. Niall Donnelly, UTV Live, Ballymena.
Ken is with us in the studio. Was this a surprise?
Not really. I think that